Hey folks, welcome to Moonshift Audio. In this video I'm going to show you 3 free delay plugins. They all work fine on Windows and Mac, including new Apple Silicon models, which is great, as well as showing you some neat and creative ways you can employ these plugins. I'm also going to give you a couple of extra tricks on how you can process your delay returns to add even more interest to your tracks. Before we get stuck in, my name's Jack. I'm a producer and a mix engineer based here in the UK. I put out a video like this every week, so please do like and subscribe. If you're working on your mixing and you're learning here on YouTube, you might find that sometimes it's a bit difficult to translate what you see in the videos to what you're actually doing in your own projects. If you'd like to see exactly how a professional would mix your own track, then you might be interested in my Mix Exploder service, where I give one of your tracks a professional mixdown, then I make you a detailed video where I take you through literally every plugin on every track and show you exactly what went into your mix, so you can see how professional techniques apply directly to the sounds that you're working with. If you'd like to know more, there's a link to the Mix Exploder down in the description. For now, let's jump into Cubase and have a look at these delays.
Okay, so here we are back in Cubase, and I've got a super simple little jam that I've made for this demonstration. It's another kind of UK garage style thing. I'm really loving that sound at the moment, and it just feels like a really nice space to look at reverb and delay kind of effects. Let's take a quick listen.
Got
the drums and the vocal off a splice, and I've made a bass and some stabs. Now, the first free delay plugin that I want to look at is super simple, or at least on the surface it's super simple. It's Valhalla FreqEcho. This is basically a very, very straight delay. You've got the mix, which is on 100% because this is on an aux track. The actual delay time, which you can choose the sync, or you can have it on free, which means that it will work to this millisecond reading here. I'm sending the vocal to this one, so I'm going to set this to a dotted eighth, which is a nice way to add a bit of depth. I'll unmute the return and we can hear this. I'll solo the vocal as well.
Me in your touch, let me show you devotion.
Worth mentioning that this vocal has been horribly de-essed by whoever produced it. Like, shockingly bad. She sounds like she's got a terrible speech impediment. I've gone with it because this is just a quick and dirty tutorial, but I really would not want to be using that in any kind of track that I was hoping to put out. Be careful with what you get off splice, I guess, is the moral of this story.
Let me light you up. I just wanna show
I'm not sending loads to this.
My love, pull me into your ocean.
You can hear if I turn up the send, it's way too much. But just a little bit
let me show you devotion. Let me light you up.
Just helps to kind of give that vocal a little bit of depth. I'll unsolo.
Drown me in your love, pull me deep in your ocean. Drown me in your touch, let me show you devotion.
Now I've cut a little bit of the lows, so nothing below about 750s coming through, and the highs, which helps that delay to sit back in the mix a bit more. But I want to show you another very quick trick here to add even more depth to your delays, and that is to put a reverb on the delay return. It's important that you use an aux track to do this, otherwise you're going to be putting reverb on the vocal itself. By sending to an aux, the vocal itself remains completely dry. So I've just got Roomworks here, which is the stock Cubase reverb, but to be honest, for something like this, it doesn't really matter. I've just loaded up literally the stock preset. I've pulled the reverb time down to about 0.8 seconds. So just so you can hear what that reverb's doing, here's just the vocal with the delay.
Oh, pull me deep in your ocean. Drown me in your touch.
And now I'll bring in the reverb.
Let me light you up. I just want to show you the depths of my love.
Here it just softens up that delay really nicely, sends it back in the mix a little bit further. Let's hear it in the context of the mix.
Oh, pull me deep in your ocean. Drown me in your touch. Let me show you devotion. Let me light you up.
And without.
I want to show you the depths of my love. Pull me into your ocean.
Just adding a lovely bit of space and depth to the vocal there. Now for that demo, I ignored the main control in FreqEcho, which sets it apart from other delays that are out there, and that is this frequency shifter. So with this left at 12 o'clock, this is a really simple, straightforward delay. But if you start to pull this in, then you get some very strange things going on. This is a frequency shifter. Now, It would be easy to think that this was just a straight pitch shifter and you might end up with like a shimmer delay kind of thing. But this is actually something a bit different to that. This is what you would call a bode style frequency shifter. And without wanting to get too technical, what that basically means is that if you do a pitch shift, you know, let's say you just pitch your whole vocal up an octave or something like that, which is what you do with a shimmer verb or a shimmer delay, then all of the frequency content of that sound that you put into the plugin is proportionally increased, say by double in the case of an octave. But this kind of frequency shifter doesn't shift the frequencies proportionally to each other. It shifts every part of the spectrum by the same amount, which is what we define here. So up to 1000 Hertz or negative 1000 Hertz. So the low end and the high end are all frequency shifted by the same amount. And this can give us some pretty crazy effects. So let's take a listen. Here's the vocal. There's basically no delay here. Okay, but if I start to put the shift up, sounds a lot like a ring modulator. And sure, a lot of those effects that we were getting there are pretty out there and not necessarily that useful. But if we put just a little bit of delay, you can hear it starts to get a bit phasey with these really short delay times. But if we put some shift in, we get almost like a kind of chorus kind of effect. And that can be a really nice way to just thicken up a vocal. I'll play the vocal on its own. And I'll bring in this chorus kind of echo. Widens it up. This gives it a quite unusual but not unpleasant characteristic. Okay, it's time to look at the next delay, and that's going to be the Baby Comeback, which is a sort of light version of Baby Audio's Comeback Kid delay, which is a great retro style delay. But this free version is actually really great on its own. And to demonstrate this, I'm just going to send some of the stab sound, that sort of mid-range synth. So I've got this on an 8th note as well. One sort of slight downside of this plugin is that there's no way to actually scale the interface, and certainly on my monitor this looks pretty tiny. But you've got the straight versus dotted control here. Now you've got a few different styles of delay. You've got the wide there, which you can hear is really wide. Analog, which is a little bit kind of lo-fi. Saucy, which has got some verb on. And cheap, which is almost sort of got almost like a slightly bit crush kind of effect. Now this is wet only at the moment because it's on an aux. But the thing that I really like, which is a little bit unusual, is the ducker. Now in a recent tutorial I was talking about how you could duck your reverb and delay returns out the way of, for example, the vocal by sidechaining it with a compressor fed from that source. But this has actually got its own ducker built in, so it ducks the delay when the incoming dry signal is present. So if I start to pull this up, you can hear that delayed signal starting to sort of like pump back up, really duck down hard. I mean, I've got this on 100%, and then come back up in the gaps between the hits. So I could put even more feedback on this if I wanted. So we're getting this kind of like almost sort of washy pad kind of thing, but it's really pumping and grooving with the rhythm that synth is playing. I'll unsolo.
Let me light you up. I just wanna show you the depths of my love. Pull me into your
I'll just turn off the baby audio.
Pull me deep in your ocean. Drown me in your touch. Let me show you devotion. Let me light you up. I just wanna show you the depths of my love. Pull me into your.
You know, in quite a sparse arrangement like this, it just adds a nice bit of depth there, but without sacrificing the impact of those actual synth hits. And this would be a great thing to put on a vocal as well, save you some time by doing the ducker built in. Okay, our third delay plugin is not exactly a well-kept secret. This is Valhalla Supermassive, which is just fantastic. And you can do some really crazy, epic delay throws with this. And for this example, I've pulled one of the vocal phrases onto a separate track where I'm just sending it to this Supermassive, no other delay. And I've got it on this Cirrus minor sparse quarters. And this is just going to be a really nice way to have a huge delay throw come off the back of that phrase.
Oh yeah, the depths of my love. Pull me into your ocean. Drown me in your love. Drown me in your love.
Just fantastic. Now we can make that even more fun by putting a kind of pumping four to the floor sort of sidechained effect on just that Supermassive reverb return. So I've just got an instance of Shaperbox here with a simple upward ramp on the volume. Let's see what we get with that.
Pull me into your ocean. Drown me in your love.
Maybe we don't need the mix on full.
Drown me in your love. Drown me in your love.
Just another way, layering one effect on top of another can give you just a little bit more interest and a little bit more depth in your production. The last thing I want to show you is something a little bit fruity, and I'm going to do a sort of very basic breakdown here. So I'm dropping out the vocal, dropping out the bass, dropping out the synth. Got a pad to come in, and we're going to keep the drums going. And I'm going to show you how you could perhaps make use of the slightly more crazy end of the Valhalla FreqEcho. So I'm sending the drums to this frequency echo here. We've got it on an 8th dotted, and at the moment the shift is on 0. So let's have a listen to that.
Love.
So I'm getting that nice rhythmic, kind of slightly syncopated kind of vibe from that. But if we were to automate this, I'm just going to do it with the mouse live. We can go a bit mad with the frequency shift.
Love.
Bring the bass back in.
Love.
We could perhaps put some saturation on there. I'm just mucking around now. Anyway, all sorts of fun to be had with some free delays and a few random ideas for effects layering. Hope you enjoyed it.
If you found this video useful, please do like and subscribe for more tips, tricks, resources and downloads from me at Moonshift Audio. Till next time.